Okay, we're back here for round 10. Who did we miss? Cole Calhoun, Dustin Pedroia, Colton Wong, Mark Trumbo, Ryan Zimmerman, ouch, JD Martinez, Pablo Sandoval, Evan Gaddis, Gio Gonzalez, Trevor Rosenthal, Jason Kipnis, Tyson Ross, Cody Allen, Ben Revere, Carlos Carrasco, Jonathan Lucroy, or LaCroix, who knows how you say it, and Justin Verlander off the board. 5 picks before I come back up here. Ozuna might have to join the team here. We could go Machado as well. Went 3 for 3 with a double and a steal on Tuesday in spring training. Spring training stats don't count, though. Let's see. Where else do we want to be? I kind of like Machado in a format like this. He should have a fair amount of power. Not, insane power. He hasn't displayed that yet. Not to say he couldn't grow into it one way or the other. Garrett Richards was just selected. But he is going to get a lot of hits, hopefully, bat for a high average, and maybe you just rack those up. And, who knows, if he does break out and put up, 25 home runs this year, that'll be a nice value. Alexi Ramirez and Masahiro Tanaka were just taken. I am terrified of Tanaka this year, as well as, the Wainwrights and the Darvishes. Matt Adams was just selected. Let's see. We got one more pick here. It looks like it's an auto pick even, so it'll probably be Matt Carpenter is my guess. Oh, it was Anibal Sanchez, so it's to me here. I do think I want to get a third baseman. Just, I was kind of hoping to land Ryan Zimmerman with one of these 2 picks, but I think Machado is my guy. So we're going to put him in the queue, and then we'll discuss what else we want to do here with our next pick. We could look at pitchers again. Cliff Lee out for the year. We're not taking him. DeGrom is the top Yahoo guy. I could take another closer. Drew Storen, Koji Uehara, top of the rankings for Yahoo. I feel good on closers, so I'm going to wait on that. So let's look at starters specifically. Phil Hughes is a guy I like this year. Kind of a control artist, but he ate up some innings last year. Had a pretty good number of strikeouts. Like not a high K per 9 by any means, but pretty good, considering. He could be a good pick here. Let's look at him versus DeGrom in our rankings. Starting pitcher. Let's see here. We've got Ryu ranked above both of them, it looks like. Where is Phil Hughes? Why are you hiding from me, Phil Hughes? Oh, no. Phil Hughes, 1 spot ahead. Ryu, DeGrom ahead of that. I have Hughes higher than both of those guys, though, in my own personal rankings. So there's Manny Machado. We'll take Phil Hughes with our other pick here and pass it on back to the next drafter. So what does that leave us with? Let's look at the roster in full here. 3 starters. 3 starters I like. My offense is lacking here relative to, how I would normally draft. I tend to prefer to go heavy offense in the early rounds. Having 5 pitchers at this point is not something that's typical for my draft strategy or style. But again, we're kind of trying some new things here. And I do think that because the offensive roster spots are limited, we will be able to find some value on the waiver wire after the draft. Guys break out all the time. I'm not really breaking any news there that there are going to be valuable players that don't get drafted, but it matters more in a league that's a little shallower like this, where you kind of focus your talent. And I think building that base of Trout, Brantley, Dickerson, and Tulo, again, this is all assuming some Tulo health, which you can never take for granted. I like where this team is at right now. I just don't like where the offense is at. Going to try to find some value here in these next couple rounds. First baseman could be one of those spots. Adam LaRoche, we saw that, according to Yahoo, homeboy hit a lot of home runs last year and just basically put up a lot of points. Him and Lucas Duda, both over 500 points. Whereas, and Ryan Howard, had 475. So we can find some home runs, some cheap power. That'll definitely do a lot to kind of boost this team. And the fact that I still have first base and both utility spots open allows us to do that. If we dig a little deeper here, we can look at a guy like Brandon Moss, Justin Morneau, also playing in Colorado, Pedro Alvarez. Hopefully he can bounce back a little bit. Adam Lind, gotta like him. I mean, we don't know if he'll play every day in Milwaukee. Probably not. Probably platoon a little bit, and that's okay in a daily league. You can, cycle those guys in and out. Looking at outfielders here, some good ones left. Worth, Rios, Brandon Moss, we talked about just a minute ago. Gregory Polanco, he could take a step forward. Steve Pearce is a guy who I think is a little underrated. Will Myers is really buried in the Yahoo rankings, and I like him. I liked him a lot last year. I made a bold prediction for him on Fantasy Pros, saying he'd be like a top 15 outfielder or something. I was way wrong, but I still believe he's still young. I might target him with one of my next 2 picks, and hope that nobody beats me to the punch there. Anyway, we'll take a break. Well, actually, let's recap the picks since I've been talking. After I took Hughes, Cliff Lee, I think, got auto-drafted. Jake DeGrom, Shin-Soo Choo, Lance Lynn, Marcell Ozuna, Brandon Moss, Matt Carpenter. And when we get back, I'll recap the next few picks before we're up again. Okay, we're back. I think I left off at Matt Carpenter. Since then, Jason Worth, Sal Perez, Adam LaRoche, Koji Uehara, Daniel Murphy, Hyunjin Ryu, Drew Stornian, Kennedy, and Yan Gomes were each taken, and there goes Pedro Alvarez. I'm interested who took Adam LaRoche. That does seem... That's a nice one. Rusty Kuntz, I'll pronounce it like that. I'm interested to see what his team looks like here, because it seems like he understands that that's a good way to go, although it doesn't seem like I can... Oh, teams, there we go. So he's got Santana, Frazier, Mookie Betts, Justin Upton, Cespedes, Adam LaRoche, and then a lot of pitching. Okay, that's interesting. He's got a couple of good closers in Rosenthal and Allen. He's got Hernandez, King Felix, and Max Scherzer. So his strategy was clearly to value pitching early on. There go Doug Fister and Steve Shisek. So yeah, interesting. That's a fun strategy to implement, I suppose. There's no wrong way to do this. If you have a plan and you stick to it, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. We don't know. That's why we play. I tend to value hitting more than pitching, although I'm pretty even split so far in this draft. With that said, I'm definitely looking at drafting a couple batters here with these next couple picks. I've got my queue loaded up to some extent here. I've still got Will Myers in there. I added some pitchers to my queue just to kind of see who's available. But let's see who else is available in this range that we could take. Lucas Duda could be a nice one. Who's to say last year wasn't his best year though? That's the concern. Oblique injury here in spring training. That's the one thing you can look at in spring training is injuries and playing time. The stats don't really matter all that much, but seeing who's winning position battles, who's hurt, who's healthy, that matters. There really aren't that many great options here in terms of hitters. I could bank on a breakout from Brandon Belt. Who's going to protect him in that lineup? Eric Hosmer was just selected. That seems like a good pick. And there goes Yadi Molina. I think Will Myers is definitely one of my picks here. After that, Duda perhaps. He only has first base eligibility this year. No outfield, which is kind of a bummer. I'm not really in love with many of these options, to be honest. So I could go upside and take a guy like Bogarts, or I think Yasmani Tomas is still available. Or I could take another pitcher. Take a look at who's available in the pitching side. Perkins, Cashner, Houston Street. I could take Street. That doesn't seem like a terrible idea. But let's take Will Myers. That's happening. There's just so many closers left, and so many pretty good pitchers like Zach Wheeler in a format like this. He's gonna get a ton of strikeouts. Like the walks don't hurt you here. You don't have a whip to worry about. Like that sort of player, is good. And there are just a lot of good starting pitchers here. I could load up on those guys. I don't know. This is a tough choice. I'm kind of rocking a hard place at this point. Let's take a look at our hitter rankings. going to take Myers, first of all. Welcome to the team. He's my first utility player. I think I'd rather take a first baseman before locking up my last utility spot. With that said, I mean, we could just go pitcher again. Tough to say. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. I'm scanning through our rankings to see who's available, or who in our rankings might still be available here. I mean, Duda's up there, largely in part to my ranking him, 95th overall. So, I mean, maybe that's just the pick. He was good last year. I mean, we could just bank on that happening again. Sure, let's try it. Offense is pretty much set at this point. I mean, that frees us up to do whatever we want in the next few rounds. We can kind of just go best value possible. So Duda slots in at first. Not in love with that pick, but I mean, based upon what he did last year, it's good value. And Will Myers, who, sure, I'll roll the dice. And let's see. Let's take a look at what some of the other teams are doing here. We saw Rusty Kuntz. Still going to pronounce it like that. Let's look at what Jeff Shelton has done, if Yahoo will let us. Gaddis, Batista, Rendon, Seager, Nelson Cruz, Yelich, Jason Worth, Adrian Gonzalez. It's a solid little offense he's got. Kluber, Alex Wood, Carrasco, Ian Kennedy. I don't know about the Ian Kennedy pick. That might have been auto pick, but who knows? Yeah, that's a solid start. I do like his offense. Like a lot of these guys, I think I don't like reaching for a catcher in Gaddis, but if he's a catcher who, plays outfield with catcher eligibility and gives you more at bats, that matters. It's one of the reasons I was willing to take Carlos Santana highly last season. Chris's cool team. He but he has Chris Carter, Kinsler, Donaldson, Alexi Ramirez, Giancarlo, George Springer, Trumbo, Longoria, Martin, Cueto, Matt Harvey, Steve Shisek, and Lance Lynn. I like this team. He seems to have recognized the power of the home run in a league like this with guys like Carter, Donaldson, Stanton, Springer, Trumbo. A couple speed guys like Leonis Martin I don't really like in a format like this, but he's got two solid starters in Harvey and Cueto. I'm not a Lance Lynn guy, but, I mean, he'll chew up those innings, which counts in a league like this. We'll check in with one more team before we take a break. Cy Kershaw. Obviously took Kershaw in the first round. His other pitchers are Cole Hamilton, DeGrom. On offense, he's got Molina, Matt Adams, D. Gordon, Beltre, Ian Desmond, Hunter Pence, Starling Marte, Alex Rios, David Wright, Dustin Pedroia. Not going to lie, I don't like this offense. It's a little too slanted towards the stolen base, especially with a guy like Marte, who a lot of his value is tied up in batting average. I mean, if he, continues to get better this season, like as he has done the past 2 years, I mean, I get it, but kind of going in on speed like this doesn't really do it for me, especially at the expense of power, while not having, elite pitching. Like Kershaw is elite, but it's not like he backed up the Kershaw pick with a bunch of other good pitchers. Although maybe you just can't do that if you take Kershaw first overall. Anyway, we'll take a break. Be back in just a moment. Okay, we're back. After the Duda pick, Elvis Andrus, Alex Rios, Chris Archer, Leonis Martin, Neil Walker, Fernando Rodney, Glenn Perkins, Michael Wacha, Jimmy Rollins, Giordano Ventura, Starlin Castro, Andrew Kashner, Bogarts, Latos, Rusney Castillo, Houston Street, Ben Zobrist, Zach Britton, Zach Wheeler, and Homer Bailey were taken. So a bit of a pitching run here, specifically closers. Kind of to be expected at this point in the draft. That's not, unheard of in the mid-rounds. People want to start locking up those saves. One pickup here before I come up. Josh Harrison was just selected, I believe, from AutoPick. And there goes Brian McCann, also probably from AutoPick. Not a whole lot of value to be had on the hitting side here. My preference is to go with some more pitching. And looking at who's available here, Benoit, Papelbon, top closers. Let's take a look at our relief pitcher rankings here. Let's see. Benoit, top of the pile. Not saying much. I can get behind that with one of these picks. I mean, I could just go for a starter. I don't mind that either. Just kind of going where that takes us. And Mike Fears appears to be the top of our rankings. So I'd go Benoit and Fears back-to-back here. That seems pretty solid. I can get into that. I think Benoit's definitely one of my picks. Should be fun to see how the Padres do with all of their new additions. Looking at starters here. Yeah, I think Fears is the guy I like the most. We're going to give him a shot. High strikeouts, somehow with a low velocity. He does it, but hopefully he can keep making that work. Yeah, let's do it. That said, I'm going to keep this round of talking short and rejoin in a moment.